Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's section. We are very sorry we have some technical issues. That was why we could not start at 11. Just, well, as usual, I can see a couple of people, coming up on board for the presentation. Since we are far left behind time, I will just give like a couple of seconds once again to allow most of you guys to come in before we start the business of the day. Even as we wait, how is your morning going? How was the weekend? Today is a brand new day, Monday for those at work, those on break. How is your break going? Hope everything is moving on smoothly. Um, for those of you guys that are joining us for the first time, my name is Gagba Ezehaya, and I'm the training coordinator with the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple Small Business Development Center helps small businesses start and grow. We offer free one-on-one consulting and a variety of low to no-cost webinars. We are proud to be part of the nationally accredited network of the Small Business Development Centers, which has over 1,000 networks across the United States. We are here this morning for a webinar on Introduction to Payment Processing. A copy of the PowerPoint and a link to the recording will be sent to all the attendees. Being a webinar, all the attendees have been muted. However, we always encourage you guys to drop your questions on the Q&A or the chat box. Today is actually a good day. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome our wonderful speaker, even as he takes over the floor for the presentation. Mr. David, you're welcome.
Thank you, Garba. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. It was technical difficulties on my end. So I apologize for that. It seems that we have them straightened out finally, and we are ready to go. As Garba mentioned, my name is David Pomeroy. I am with BKZ Consulting. BKZ Consulting has been in business for 16 years, and we have been providing consulting services around payment processing. Payment processing can encompass many different aspects. It is a new digital world, so that is something that is really driving part of this presentation in itself, as well as the consulting process that we can provide. What we do is we take an overview of what a business is doing and how they're doing business from a payment processing perspective, and offer ways to add efficiencies and to be cost effective as possible. And we'll get into that cost effective aspect here today. That's really the primary driver for this presentation, is to understand when you're taking payments, whether it be online, whether it be a credit card, whether you're invoicing, those different aspects and some of the information that is best to keep you cost effective in your business. So without anything else to say about that, I think I'll move to the next slide and get started here. So overview of payment processing, just a real quick history. Very first credit card was used 60 years ago. Credit cards acceptance translates into higher average sales. That is a fact. I do quarterly business reviews with all of my customers, and we see the fact that when they use a credit card, instead of cash or PayPal or some other form of payment, the average sale is higher as opposed to those other types of transactions. And let's face it, everybody wants to be rewarded now for the utilization of a card, if possible, and earning those travel points or those hotel stays or whatever the case may be is a big aspect of utilizing that card. People tend to use those types of cards even more now so than ever. You see down here in the bottom, just a real quick history on the Diners Club. That was the very first credit card to ever come out. I don't know if anybody may remember that many years ago, there was a diner inside of a department store, and that diner offered breakfast. Come to be that people stopped paying with cash and started saying, I'll pay you the next time I don't have the cash today. Well, the Diners Club inside of that department store decided to, instead of tracking and trying to track IOUs and what people owed, offered a card that the people could use in order to pay as long as they had money on that card. So that was kind of the start of a credit card and how it came to be. So let's talk about the brands that are behind the cards: MasterCard, Visa, American Express. They all charge very specific amounts on very specific cards, and what those cards look like. So the very first card here is a debit card, and a debit card is charged the least amount against its transaction based on the information that's provided to the payment processor. So you can see here that a debit card is 0.05% or 5 cents on every $100 sale when it's used. So if you're in business for yourself, I would recommend utilizing this so that your costs are down. But we'll get into other aspects of that as well. A standard card, a standard credit card, a non-rewards card, let's say, is 1.54%. And these are all driven by Visa and MasterCard. They all drive and regulate these costs here. And in fact, the beginning of 2021, there was supposed to be a rate hike, and both Visa and MasterCard agreed to not do that because of the pandemic. So again, back to the pricing. A standard credit card is 1.54, and you can see here that it's $1.54 for every 100. A rewards card is a little bit higher, and this is just the cost. This is the cost to use the card. This is what you're going to get charged as a proprietor or a merchant to accept that card into your business. So a rewards card's a little bit higher. The signature cards are a little bit higher, right? 2.10, and then a corporate card, something that comes from a corporation like ADT, let's say, who provides a card to all of its salespeople. Okay. And they're all, again, these are all regulated by Visa and MasterCard. So very important to understand what your costs are going to be when you're going into business if you decide to take and or utilize credit cards. Okay. So there's 5 key players to every transaction that happens in seconds. The customer, of course, comes to your location or your website and purchases. The merchant is you. You're providing the product that the customer is interested in and is willing to pay for a certain amount for that product. The payment processor, which is us, we provide the gateway to the card issuer and the brands so that the payment can be accepted at your location. So the payment processor sends the statements and routes the transaction and delivers payment authorization. So what that means is when that card is placed into the machine or taken from a computer, that information is passed through our network directly to the card issuers and the card brands, and it tells us, or it'll tell you, right, that that card is a viable card, it has credit on it, or it has a certain amount available to it, and that exchange or transaction is approved. And that all happens within seconds, very, very quick, and it is all secured. So here's a high level view of the credit sale process, kind of what we hit on the last slide. And again, it happens very, very quickly in that the card holder comes to your business or your online service or store. The business accepts the card, whatever that card brand may be. Payment processor then receives the information from that point of sale and or business. And then it goes out to the card brands, it goes out to the issuing bank of that card. The payment processor bounces that information back from the card brand and the card issuing bank back to the business for approval or denial. And For those that are newer and or those who have experience in accepting credit cards, 95% of the time, when a card is denied, it is not denied because the machine isn't working right. It is generally because the credit is not good on that particular card. And you'll find that if you just ask for another card that is good, that transaction will go through. So there's two types of pricing models that are available to those that are looking to get into merchant services. The two that we're going to talk about today are the pay per swipe. So every time a card gets swiped, every time that you put credit card information into your computer and accept a card as a transaction. And then there's interchange plus pricing. So here are types of sales that can occur if you utilize specific providers. For instance, PayPal and Square. There's others out there, many, many others. And in fact, Square is no longer, I don't believe, I think that's actually changed names. But there are no monthly fees to use these cards and it's easy to understand, right? However, the transaction costs are very high. So if you remember back to the slide that I showed you, when you use a card, a general credit card, that the cost is much less than what you're paying based on what PayPal, Square, or other providers may be charging you. So, and that's the reason why we're having this conversation. This is the reason why we're having this consultancy type of talk, is so that when you go into business and you need to understand who your providers are, what those costs are going to be, and potentially how you could save money and be cost effective for your own business, right? Customers don't want to pay more for the service or the product. They want to be charged a fair amount. And what's coming more and more practical to charge is a surcharge, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So the next slide is going to be, if you use interchange plus model, interchange is the cost of the card itself and whatever a transaction cost may be from that specific provider. So I'm going to go back to the last slide. Okay. So $100 sale, 2.75. This is what PayPal is charging you on top of what the card costs are. So in total, it's $275. So they're making the difference of the $1.54 for this card. That's their profit margin. Here, in this example, you can see it's a whole lot less. So this is the standard charge to utilize a regular MasterCard. And then 15 cents is what the provider is charging them to have a transaction go through that particular payment processor. And the total cost is $169 to the merchant, right? $100 sale is coming off of your product or service. This is what you're getting charged on top of that $100 sale. So just to go back real quick, $275 per card sale using PayPal, or $169 utilizing an independent service provider like BKZ to provide services. And it's not necessarily a sale here that I'm trying to provide. I'm trying to provide information to this group about what to look for when you're out there. So interchange plus pricing establishes a set percentage above the card brand fees and keeps a merchant from overpaying, is basically what we're trying to talk about. Understand what the bottom line is for each card brand and what you could potentially be charged by some of these providers. It's generally a whole lot more than what the actual card cost is. So just be careful when you are searching for a merchant as you provide these types of services of taking credit cards. So there's some other information about taking credit cards that we need to talk about. So you've decided to get into the credit card business and take cards from customers, one, because it's faster, two, because the average sale is higher, and three, the convenience of it for everybody, right? From the merchant's perspective as well as the customer perspective, it's easier to account for, right? We're not counting cash. It goes into some kind of system, generally in a digital format, and we can account for all of it. So what the card brands actually look for is very specific information during a transaction process. And that information generally speaks to whether or not you're going to get charged more or less. And when I say more, if let's say you're taking a transaction over the phone and the customer gives you their credit card information, they give you, you put in the amount, you put in the CVV number, which is the security number on the back, and you forget to add or include the zip code. Well, if you forget to include the zip code, rules are through banking regulation that you will be charged more because you did not include that information in the transaction. And the reason for that is the risk. There is risk involved in accepting that transaction from the card providers. Whether or not the money's in that bank, what happens is because of the lack of information, it takes them longer to process to find out account information directly. So what they want is as much information as you can provide. And you can see here that this is based on this image, some of the information that they need and or could be looking for in order for a transaction to occur with the least amount of risk. And when it's the least amount of risk, it's the least amount of cost is what it boils down to. So as part of our consultancy, we talk about those types of things with businesses to ensure that no matter what aspect of a transaction occurs, whether you're have a website and there's some kind of form that kicks to the person and they have to fill out a form, we ensure that all of the required information that is needed for a transaction to be least risky and most cost effective is being requested from the customer to be filled. Right? You know, when I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with purchasing from Amazon. Amazon keeps your card information on record. However, they have everything they need in there, that your address, your full address, your zip code, the CVV number, everything in order for a transaction to be the least costly from their perspective. So different types of transactions that can occur at a merchant, right? So we talked a little bit down at the bottom there, add to a cart. So some type of online service or product is an opportunity for credit cards to be accepted. And absolutely, that is something that a lot of customers look for, right? They don't want to use, they don't want to have to go to a business, right? Everything is done online now. It's amazing how so much has changed in 3 to 4 years of time. And then at the top, you can see that's a credit card machine. The little chip that's on top of that card is called EMV. The EMV allows for contactless transactions to occur, so that all the person has to do is wave that in front of the device. And then NFC is the protocol. Near field communications allows for the connection between the device and the card, and then a transaction can occur. You'll also notice here that this is a Bluetooth device. So you pair in the middle here, you pair a phone to this device and you can take transactions. You can slide the card in at the top there, or you can key in the numbers or the information, and then a transaction can occur. On the right here is a invoice that can be sent to a customer via email. The customer puts in all of their information, and then a transaction can occur. You can see here that the zip code is required The phone number is required, the company, the first name, the last name, the CVV or the actual card security number, and then the expiration and some other information that's required. This way, again, you're getting the best deal through the transaction that a merchant can get based on accepting cards. So that's pretty much it for me. I like to leave the floor. I like to give the information pretty rapid fire. I know everybody's situation is different. And I like to leave time for questions because I like to talk about it. This also shares information with everyone who else is on the call who could be in a similar situation. Again, there's a lot of customization that can be done, and people have a lot of questions around that customization and what that might look like. So I like to leave some time for questions and answers after reviewing that information. So I am certainly open to Q&As. Garba, if you can hear me. I don't know if we have any yet.
Oh yeah, we have a couple of, I think we have just one from the Q&A, then we have like 3 to 4 on the chat box.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing then.
Okay.
Okay, ready.
Now, can you see the questions?
Do you want me, I can just click on the chat?
Yeah, you just click on it. Let's start with the chat first.
Okay, and there's a couple of questions in here.
Okay, yeah.
All right, let's take a look. Which credit cards are used most often in the world and why? Which credit cards are the easiest to use according to the consumers? So the most used are rewards cards by far, because if you're going to use a card, they want rewards, right? So the consumer wants to be rewarded for utilizing a credit card at a business or a service. So that is the most widely used card based on historical information that we have. And which is the easiest to use? Any card that has an EMV attached to it. So a lot of the newer cards have these EMV chips in them. Those are definitely the easiest cards to use according to consumers. They don't necessarily have to touch anything now, and that's a big deal for a lot of businesses. We have transferred over a lot of accounts to allow for that type of transaction to occur from an old swipe and or insert for the chip to a just glide it over the top, let's say. So how is cryptocurrency impacting the credit card industry? How is it expected to impact it over the coming years and why? That's a good question. And I can tell you from our perspective, annually, we review all of our accounts, and credit card sales have increased year over year, up to 25% per business. So I don't see credit cards going away anytime soon. I think that's a pretty broad question because it's a matter of trust and credibility. And I think until that's in the population or more popular, I think then you're going to see some changes occur. There's ringings of digital banking to start. And I do know that on your tax return, you have to say whether or not you hold cryptocurrency. I don't know if there's an amount on there yet, but it's becoming more and more prevalent for sure. So we'll see. We'll definitely see what happens there. Let's see. I think here's another one, Garbo. Without naming a provider, we had a provider slowly increase fees over time without disclosure of the increases. We recently changed providers. How frequently are these undisclosed increases? So that might be written into the terms of the contract that you have with the provider, that they could do a index increase based on CPI, right? Cost index, and increase the fees at a certain percentage within the contract. We do not increase fees for the lifetime of our contracts or terms because we want to keep you as a customer for as long as we possibly can. And how do you do that? We want you to increase your sales, absolutely, but we certainly don't want to charge you more to use the cards. Now, if there is a increase that comes down from the banking industry, of course, that's going to be passed along. So I hope that helps. Can you speak to some details about accepting EBT and SNAP? So SNAP is used similar to a credit card. I do know about that one a little bit. Basically, the card machine is utilized just like a credit card, the SNAP cards, and allow for customers to use them just like a bank account card, right? It's not a rewards card. It's just generally like a debit card. And I'm not sure about EBT. I'm not sure what he means by EBT. So if Jessica, you want to clarify on your EBT question, I'd be happy to talk about it. When a credit card breach occurs in PayPal or Shopify, do I pay as a business? No, you do not. That is not the case. A credit card breach by a provider is strictly up on them, and they are supposed to provide services to ensure that if that breach included your information, whatever that protection may be. What about on the website, and should I have a terminal? So Regina, as far as a website, you absolutely can set up commerce to go through your website. Whoever your website provider is can set that up based on whatever those requirements are. We do offer shopping cart style. So look for a provider that offers that type of service so that you can put the information into the transaction gateway, and it'll go by product number, and that will help you. And as far as a terminal goes, I would say that depends on your business. If you have customers in store, absolutely a terminal might be more efficient. If you don't have many customers coming in, but you're still taking credit cards, let's say over the phone, you can do that, or at a computer, you can absolutely do that. Terminal is for speed of processing and gives better customer overall experience. So you want that customer to be happy when they come into your store. I think there is a class action lawsuit for this provider that was doing the, okay, I don't think that's a question. Is there a limited number of transactions in order to use a service like yours? No, there is not. Or would it be beneficial going the route of Square and PayPal? That is a great question, Nathan. So PayPal and Square, right, do not charge to have an account. So there's no monthly fee. They just want you to accept cards. So spot on there. So if you're charging $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month in total transactions, it might be better for you because there is a cost to have an account with an independent service provider like us. So our monthly fees range anywhere from $20 a month to $60 a month in total, depending on the different types of services that you might be interested in. So that's a really good question. We are developing an app for our SaaS as a service. Great, that's awesome. We are using Stripe as the API for credit card processing the purchase. Is there an ability for us to negotiate with Stripe on a credit card processing service fees? No, there is not. I can tell you that right now. They are Stripe, PayPal, and good luck getting customer service on some of these platforms too. They're very difficult. But from a negotiating perspective, you cannot do a competitive rate with them. Now, depending on how much I should say monetary value you're providing to Stripe, you might have some leverage. But generally speaking, they are non-negotiable. And to say that you're using Stripe just because you have an API, we provide that type of service too. And I know many other independent service providers do as well. So you could be saving money by using an independent service provider as opposed to Stripe. They're not the only ones that will provide that type of processing, let's say. I have a small new business, so transactions are very limited to only a couple a year. Okay. Great, Nathan. Keep up the hard work and hopefully you get more transactions. Is it possible to disclose in our contract that we charge clients who submit a charge back? So I'm trying to understand that one. It is possible to disclose in our contract that we charge clients who submit a chargeback. So I think what he's speaking to here is if is it possible in the contract that we charge clients. Yes. So if a client uses a bad card, you can absolutely charge back on that. And that should be fully disclosed. Absolutely. That looks to be about it. Is there any other questions? How about in the Q&A, right?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions on the
Okay.
Q&A. Yeah. We'll start with Kim.
Okay. Kim, will we receive a, yes, absolutely. The PowerPoint, Garber will push out the PowerPoint to everyone. We will receive a copy of the webinars. I believe so, right? Garber, your recordings we can share, right?
Yes.
That's excellent. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Is setting up credit card payments different from international company? Any tips? So personally, we do not work with international transactions. Canadian, we do, I'm sorry. So Canadian currency and American currency. As far as international, that's a good question. I don't have any experience personally with that. Someone who has used that, but I know that when you're selling things that aren't necessarily, so we had a cigar shop who wanted us to help them. We couldn't do that because it was tobacco online, so they wouldn't allow it. So he had to go to an international. So there's specific reasons why you might want to use that, but otherwise from a supports perspective and a transaction perspective. So what happens is when all your transactions go in for the day, at some set time at the end of the day, let's say 8 p.m. East Coast time, you want all those transactions to go into your bank account. Well, that's going to occur real time here. 8 p.m. Eastern time every day. There's going to be a batch run and all those transactions will be placed into your bank account. So I don't know what the rules are from an international perspective, but that's something I would definitely be aware of. How does a business begin to choose a payment processing company? Any tips? Absolutely. So there is a vetting process for sure. And I think that vetting process is based on trust and credibility. Being able to trust that payment processing company is very important. So understanding everything up front. So I'll go over a little bit about what we talk about. We talk about pricing. The first thing we talk about is their business. What's going on inside of your business? And if we can even help them based on the processing that they're doing, payment processing they're doing. Then we talk about, okay, this is what we see that we can add as efficiencies and how that can be cost effective. As I mentioned previously, you want to be as cost effective as you can when you're taking payments. And thirdly, we provide a demo of the actual the service. It is software as a service, similar to a question earlier that you log in, you see a gateway service, and you can type that information right into the computer and a transaction can occur. So you want to see the service before you buy it. And then lastly, you want to get a copy of that contract and understand exactly what the terms are of the contract. It could be 3 years, it could be 6 years. There could be CPI increases, consumer price index prices, depending on if it goes up. That could be built in. Go through those terms, make sure that it fits what you're looking for. Hopefully that was helpful. Just starting a business. This is Jennifer. Was looking at Stripe or Square because they are integrated with my scheduling and mail systems. Are there services that process credit cards at a lower cost, but also easily integrate into this? Absolutely, Jennifer, to answer your question, there's absolutely integration opportunities. I can tell you that we integrate with several of the large ones. NMI is a large processor, gateway processor that we are integrated with, as well as the name slips me right now. NMI is the big one. And if I think of it, I'll mention it at the end, but it slips me right now. There's another one, but there are several large providers that integrate with a lot of different types of systems, whether it be email, whether it be accounting. And sometimes we can integrate directly if it's an open type of software. And that's true for any ISO, right? Like BKZ. So Samuel, what is the minimum amount of time that credit card issuers must notify customers on changes in card fees? Is that a universal regulation or does it vary by type of card or transaction? So minimum amount of credit card issuers must, that's correct. So it is universal and regulated. MasterCard, Visa, American Express, all have to follow regular banking regulations, and that will be notified to all customers about what those charges will be and increases will be. So it would be a broad notification of all for that information throughout marketplaces in the United States for sure. So this is Jennifer. I know that the credit card fees vary by credit card, but what is a benchmark of monthly sales where it would make sense to choose your service versus Stripe? Great question. And we generally say that we like to grow with our customers. And I think this is true for any independent service provider in that the charges are minimal to maintain an account, and the objective is for the merchant to grow, right? And we're going to grow with that customer, that business, that service. So from that perspective, I don't know what Stripe's terms are. So they could put you onto a 3-year term. And let's say your sales increase exponentially this year just because you found a niche. Well, now you're stuck with Stripe for those 3 years, and you're stuck with the costs that come with Stripe. And I don't think you want that to happen. So understanding that those costs are long-term goals, and those long-term costs, as opposed to the short-term costs and the growth, should be all perspective that you keep within your business, Jennifer. And thank you for that question. That's very good. Awesome. More questions. That's awesome. The question was meant to ask the minimum amount of time that the customer must be given notification of changes in card fees. 30 days, 60 days. That's a good question. I'm not sure what that term would be. I'm sure it's going to be at least a month, right? At least 30 days, at least. And there is no ringings right now, Samuel, from that perspective of that changing anytime soon. They meet on an annual basis and decide when that potentially will be done. And there's no ringings of that right now, especially with the pandemic that continues in the US. So I don't think there's any concerns right there right now. Maybe 2023, 2024, as you see these interest rate hikes start to pan out, if they truly occur, then I think the banks may question that at that point, but nothing in the near future, Samuel. Hopefully that helps. Thank you, everyone. Those were awesome questions. I really enjoyed that. I like the questions more than the presentation, to be honest with you, Garba. I love being able to help people.
Yeah. I think we have to go back to the chat.
Yeah, I see a question in there, actually, Garba. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
From Roz Greggs. Can nonprofits receive discounted rates for payment processing? Absolutely. 100%. Nonprofits do receive discounted pricing from payment processors. Depending on what type of business it is and what type of nonprofit it is, all we have to do is submit the paperwork with the nonprofit checked, and you will receive a discounted rate for sure. So thank you for that question, Ross. Great question. I love that stuff.
There was this one from Regina.
Okay. I don't see Gina yet. Is she
when you scroll up, when you go up a bit, she said, I just want to make sure I understand independent service charges per month, not per swipe.
Yes, absolutely, Regina. And if the independent service provider is not upfront with you with what the charges are, so generally there is a cost to have the account, which is the same every month. And then there's a cost for per transaction, and that's negotiated between you and that provider. From that, that's going to be your total cost. Now, there might be some other fees that are regulatory that are standard for anybody, right? So if you go through Stripe, if you go through PayPal, those charges are going to be standard charges that are, so I think there's one that's called a network regulation for credit cards. That's a standard fee that's going to come in your statement every month, no matter who you use. Those are standard, and that service provider should share with you what your total costs are going to be per month. And then what's unknown is what the charges are going to be based on your total amount of transactions, right? That amount could be $100 depending on where your transactions lie, right? So I hope that helps, Regina. Please feel free to put another question in there if you'd like.
Yeah, I think we have a question from Peggy. And the question is like, hello, sorry, I'm late here due to bad connection on my end. I am a business just starting out, not much in sales. What would be best for use for processing payment? Looking to have a website in a month or so.
So as someone who is starting out, and we recently signed an accounting service that is just starting out. So we gave him the minimum amount to take transactions over the phone and or in person. So what that means is he has an account. So there's a standard account charge. And then there's a per transaction charge cost that's added to the credit card swipe or the card transaction. And what that offers him is the ability to take cards at the least amount of charge or cost to him. And he's grown that business. He now has a machine in his office because he's grown that business and no longer wants to deal with the computer itself. So hopefully you get to that point, Peggy. Do you see any others, Garba?
Yeah, Samuel just posted a question. He was like, what is the easiest way to keep up with comparative card processing costs on an annual basis with so much type of cards and processing system available to small businesses today?
Good question. So I'm going to read that again myself. What's the easiest way to keep up with comparative card processing costs on an annual basis with so many types of cards and processing systems available to small businesses? Great question. So one of the best ways to do that is to absolutely build that into your business model that you're going to take credit card processing. We have many customers come to us and ask, you know, my credit card costs are hurting my business. How do I circumvent that cost? And they're smaller businesses, right? They want to try to circumvent that service, but they don't want to lose the efficiency and the customer experience. So what we tell them to do is to offer surcharging or convenience fee to accept that card. If that makes sense.
Okay, just a quick one before we move back to the chat box to take the questions that actually came up on board. I just want to use a few seconds to inform our wonderful attendees that I just posted a 30-second survey about today's webinar. Remember, we at Temple SPDC, we always cherish your feedback, even as it helps us to improve on the services we provide to you guys at a low cost. So kindly take out your 30 seconds of your time to help us to fill out the survey. David, I think we have someone, Jonathan. I don't know if you can see what Jonathan is saying.
Jennifer?
Jonathan.
Oh, Jonathan. No, I don't. Not right now.
He was like, your email just got kicked back to me.
Did I copy it? Misspelled consulting. I saw that. I'm sorry. Jonathan. Yeah, consulting is LT. So I just put it in there. I'm sorry.
Jennifer is there again with the question. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I have friends that have gotten handheld processing devices that are not reliable. Is there something we should consider when looking at those as well? So we use specific brands. Genico is a very reputable brand that offers reliability. We have a lot of customers that are utilizing these handheld devices, not just from direct connect, like network connected Genicos, but also from handheld Bluetooth type devices as well. So Jennifer, either one of those, that would be the brand that I would recommend to you. All right.
Yeah.
Garba, thank you, man. You did a great job today.
You're welcome. I think we've answered like every question that comes up on board during the presentation. We have like a couple of minutes left, probably 5 minutes. So this goes to the attendees once again. You know, if you have any question, we have 5 minutes left before we wrap it up. But before then, even as we still wait for more questions, I just want to use this opportunity to thank our wonderful presenter, Mr. David. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I personally actually enjoyed everything you presented. And of course, I can attest to it, and I can say it on behalf of all the attendees, because looking at the questions that actually came up on board, you know, it shows everybody understood and enjoyed everything you actually presented. In addition to this, I also want to use this medium to thank all my Temple SPDC colleagues for their wonderful support and encouragement to make sure this webinar come into existence. I think thus far, no question on board. I will just give like a minute to see if further question will come. If it doesn't, we'll just wrap it up for the day.
Awesome. Thank you, Garber.
You're welcome.
Thank you for everything. It was a great presentation today, and really great interaction. I love the interaction.
Thank you very much.
More so than the presentation. I think the presentation initiates the conversation, and then the conversation comes forward to us. And that's truly why I like doing this.
That's awesome. Okay, I think we'll just keep it a day. Have a nice day. Thank you, and have a nice day finally. Bye-bye.
See you, Garber. Bye-bye. Take care now.
Yeah.